Welcome back to a beautiful 6th of April, 2024. Shooting from the indoors for a change. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a little project I did recently. Some of you know that I do my own leather work and to customize it for my needs. And one of the things that I've done recently came about as the result of the failure, sort of a piece of equipment that I've carried every day since it was first introduced. I have a Leatherman Charge TTI, I think the model number was. It's the one with the hook-backed serrated blade, which is killer as far as I'm concerned. They should have it on all their multi-tools, and a 154 cm straight blade, which is pretty much the perfect configuration for a lot of the work that I find myself doing. Now, I carry actual knives. I don't rely on my multi-tool for everything, but it's one of those things that always has been with me since the first day that I got it. And over the years, I developed a shoulder harness arrangement that I can wear. It keeps it out of the way and isn't digging into me when I'm getting in and out of motor vehicles or whatever. And this is the original older version that I put it in. It's been sort of taken apart, and we'll get into that in a moment. Now, it fits in there beautifully. Got your little stud and slot attachment holes. This is based on a Tandy shoulder rig setup that was originally designed to carry a pistol, but they sold the actual harness assembly, and you could then buy the plans for the pistol holster if you wanted to. And they sold plans for an actual Leatherman tool holder, which I looked at and then enlarged it because it was for the original Leatherman tool, which was smaller. This sleeve here was originally sized to fit a mini Maglite, which I've long since moved away from. I'm using these little Lumen Top tool, AA size. I'm going to do a review of those one of these days soon, because contrary to popular belief, these have turned out to be one of the best, most useful little lights that I've ever dealt with for the kind of life that I lead. Anyway, this used to have another sleeve here for a Bic lighter, but that has been taken off because of the project we're talking about today, so we'll get into that. So here, about, 3 months ago, I was on a job site, and I opened the pliers, and I was attempting to strip a piece of 22 gauge wire, and I used the stripping point in the jaws and pulled it off, and it didn't strip. And I did it again, and I realized that when the handles are closed, the tip is not closed. So we have this going on. So I did a little bit of research, and there's a mechanism in here that's designed to prevent the knife blades from opening when the pliers are open. And little experimentation showed me that the blades actually can open when these are the fixed the straight edge doesn't, but the serrated hook edge one can open while it's in its open state. So I'm not going to retire this completely. My plan is to send it away to see if I can collect on the warranty, much wanted Leatherman warranty, and see how it goes. I'll report back to you on that. When this returns, though, here's the thing: you get tools, and especially something like this or a Swiss Army knife that does multiple jobs in one package. And it's a bit of a compromise, but the ideal is to be able to walk into a situation, in my case professionally as well as just in everyday life, and you've got basic tools on you, so you don't have to go back and drag a toolbox around or a tool bag or a tool belt or whatever. I don't do that. So most the tiny little maintenance and inspection types of things could be handled by this. Not perfectly. For example, you take something like here's one of the bit holders. This happens to have a Phillips bit in it. And if I can't get in it any other way, I can turn it sideways and wiggle it around in there. But an astonishing number of situations call for something that can fit into even a smaller hole. So you end up compromising, and So yeah, what's going to happen to this, assuming I get it back repaired or something similar, which is, I understand how it works with Leatherman. Um, that will be going into a modified. I'm taking this and modifying it and putting it on a sleeve that fits into one. You've seen me wearing my outdoor equipment with two big pattern 37 webbing pouches in the front. One of them is a first aid kit and signaling for signaling gear, and the other one contains a silky pocket boy folding saw, a set of pruning shears, and this is going to go in there as well. I think I'll get a notebook and a pencil or two in there, that kind of stuff. So all that stuff I need for bushcrafty things that I get up to. So this being the case, I said, well, let's pare this down. Let's look at what I actually need for a day in the field to do with the same philosophy. As I mentioned, a gentleman's garniture. I've written about that before. So I sat down and I thought about what I needed. Well, first of all, the serrated blade is very, very useful, and I want that around, but on the average job, that's more useful in the woods, and that'll be with me in the woods. But it also has a small saw, which is useful, but usually not for walking and diagnosing an issue or servicing or inspecting something. So so what do I want with me? And this is going back to taking everything off of one monolithic tool and turning into individual, suitable for purpose tools to serve the individual needs. So the first thing let's look at is the straight edged blade. Now, when I'm stripping a wire or doing something that requires this is it's a bit of a learning curve to be able to manipulate that, especially if you're standing on a ladder and your tool might plummet somewhere. Yes, there is a detachable wrist lanyard, which I do use, but nonetheless, it's something I've gotten used to, and it works very, very well. Also, for opening wiring apertures in plastic device housings, this tip works very well. So where could I find, I didn't want to be fiddling with it. I didn't want to be opening it and closing it. If I'm going over to actual devoted tools, what am I going to use? So I did a lot of looking. I'm a big fan of CRKT, and they happen to make this little bird and trout knife called the Biwa, B-I-W-A, and fairly thick, and yet it's hollow ground, single edge. It's just, I got a detailing here, jimping, and a lanyard thing. I've put an elastic one on for reasons we'll get into. But if you look at the dimensions and designs of the blades, that's, you've got a nice point. You've got it lined up with the axis of the blade, and yeah, about the same length. Very handy. So this comes with a plastic scabbard. It doesn't lock in it super well. It's the design. It's not that mine happens to be a one-off. Actually, things like this get purchased, his and hers. So I gifted one of these to Mrs. LFM, so she has one as well. So this may look rather large to you, but let me put this back in and show you what I came up with. So hook it in the way it would be if I was carrying it. So comparatively speaking, then, we have one change from this to this, and I'll show you in a moment. Now, the actual width of this is the same as that when it had its lighter sleeve, which is this one over here. That used to be on the opposite side of that. And that's critical because when I'm wearing this with my bush gear, this rides right behind the right hand general purpose pouch that my first aid gear is in. So it couldn't be, and it rides perfectly there. So what we've got here then is a sleeve for a lumen top flashlight, just like that one. We have the knife I just showed you with a bungee cord that I can hook it on there so it's not flicked out when I'm carrying it around. And I can put that around my wrist if I'm working over water or whatever might happen. We have a Stanley screwdriver setup that is used for opening small screws of various sizes. It has screwdrivers at opposite ends. I'll show you all of this in photographs in the article that accompanies this video. And of course, the trusty Bic lighter. Under here, again with the full tab, I have, now this resulted from some digging around online looking for parameters for the things that I wanted. The pliers on the multi-tool, they're not an incredibly potent tool. If you want real pliers, shall we say, to really wrench on something, you go back to the toolkit and you get it out. But for opening the small things or accessing, working with up to 14 gauge wire, you don't need much. So I went to Lee Valley Tool. I'm going to link in the description of the video and to the article that goes with this. These are made in Japan, part of an assemblage of small technicians' pliers that they make. There, you'll notice a little peg that sticks out inside the jaws. That keeps it lined up if you're wrenching in a circle. And the cutting edges for snipping wire are very near the tip, which is kind of good when you're working in a confined space with small bits of wire that may require from a repair and the kind of work that I do. Can also be used in certain fishing applications. But the point of the issue is there's a pair of pliers in your hand and they fit in a sleeve, which I'll give you a downward view down the throat of this thing. Okay, there's a sleeve behind this ratchet and it fits in there perfectly well, retained by the weather cover. That's weather and retention are the two reasons for this flap to be what it is. You will notice two more devices here, which I will pull out. These also came to me via Lee Valley. They're both the same, differing only in the size of the Phillips driver head on it. These are called offset screwdrivers. They are designed to get into a narrow crevice and open, tighten, or release screws, which are often found in steel cabinets that house electronic equipment and many types of life safety and security equipment. So I have two different sizes, the regular medium and the smaller one, and they fit in a created sleeve, and you'll see how that was crafted when you see the article that goes with this. In the front, in front of the sleeve that holds the pliers, is this little ratchet, which typical little ratcheting device, again for getting into narrow confines, but quite often you're just trying to release some screws to open an access hatch or cases like that. With this, when it was ordered, came two sleeves, essentially magazine type, or if you use firearms terminology, essentially clips that hold a selection of standard size hex bits to fit this thing. So where do they need to be? Well, I've built them into, I don't know if you can see it, but you can't unless I take this out. All right, I'll take the pliers out. You can see two little cavities, one under my finger here, one under my finger here. And they match up with these two holes, which look a little raggedy. This is a prototype, and my prototypes tend to be used. Okay, so I don't build these for anybody but me. So, and that is cleverly designed for the butt end of this to fit in it. So when I do that, what happens is this pops up. Okay, and there's one on the other side, works exactly the same way. Now let's look at this. So what these are, in this particular case, there's 3 sizes of Phillips bits, now 4 sizes of Phillips bits. One's a little longer to fit in deeper recesses, and a selection of standard blade screwdriver bits, and a number 8 Robertson bit butt. And they're in the order in which they were provided by the manufacturer. So don't worry that there's a bladed driver over here and a bladed driver over here and so on. Anyway, these are in fact gunsmith screwdrivers. They are parallel where they meet the slot of the screw head, which is something that I didn't have with my, I always had to carry a separate set of drivers and a separate toolkit whenever I went hunting or anywhere that I would, or on the range whenever I was using a firearm that I might need to tighten grip screws on or remove something or do some kind of maintenance. So I've got a small setup of these screwdriver bits. And I'll give you a better picture of it all when we get to the the imagery that's in the article that goes with this. Put everything together here again. Screwdriver, put my pliers back in and close it. So yeah, there it is. Now it's significantly heavier than the one that was there before, but not ridiculously so. And every tool does what the tool is designed to do, and you're not taking multiple tools in hand because you want to do something like cut a piece of rope or tighten a screw or whatever the case may be. So that's been in the field with me now for about a little bit more than a month, and it has required no tweaking. It has served me well. It has not been in the way. It has not been uncomfortable. And let me show you one other quick little thing. That little hooked blade on the Leatherman that I showed you, I'm a big fan of those, and I use them a lot for opening packaging and things of this sort. So again, visiting Lee Valley, sometimes things show up for me to see. I haven't put any kind of a retaining loop on this. I'm making a leather tab to pull it out with. But there's a sleeve that exists behind the weather cover and the point where the harness comes in that you can see there, which has this interesting little thing sort of shaped like an evergreen tree. And it's a so-called multi-tool. It's got graduations in centimeters and inches on either side if you want to measure something very tiny. That wasn't the selling point for me. Bottle opener. I don't open many bottles on the job or even in the field that would require that kind of a cap lifter. But this little socket here that has drop onto a nut. It's got one set for 5/16, one for 1/4, and one for 3/16. It's extremely common. 3/16 isn't common, but it's extremely common for the 5/16 or 1/4 to be mounted on a cabinet for a fire alarm control panel or a security equipment that you need to arrest it so that you can take a screwdriver and remove the other side. And by God, that has proven. You just drop it on. You don't have to worry about if there's a screw sticking up through it that you need a deep socket for. No worries. There it is. And the big thing is it's got a hooked blade on it. Now I can sharpen that with the tooling that I have, and I can use that to open packaging. I can use it to actually cut webbing. I've done a little bit of testing with this thing, and it's a cool little thing. It's got it's shaped for the Lee Valley tool. They have an evergreen tree or a spruce tree logo, so that's what this is supposed to match up with. They actually have it printed on there, you can see. So that's a very cool little thing. It takes up it's got a built-in slot to accept that. It's not going anywhere, and not going to fall out by accident. This doesn't need to have a retention strap. Getting it out is harder. So like I said, I am going to be putting in a sewn-on draw-up tab that I can put on there. But it hasn't been necessary yet. So anyway, there it is. So take a look at it, read the article that this is embedded in, and let me know what you think. And I will fill you in on further developments as we go along. So this is Large Fierce Mammal, and that's it for the day.